This episode of Warchant is sponsored by McMahon Cove Gilly. You can find them on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
But back to the early days. So you talked about Big John McCarver, which I work with him now.
John was a junior that first year.
Who were some of the other linemen?
We up front on offense. I was the starting center. Shane Kirk was one guard. Troy Daniels, y'all won't know who Troy Daniels is because he moved off and not even sure where Troy's even at now. He was a guard. Craig Kirk played.
To Wayne Daniels?
Maybe distantly, I think so. Craig Kirk played some guard in there. Kyle Thomas was one tackle, and Felix Jackson was a tackle. And Robbie Rich and Chris Kitchell were our tight ends. We had two tight ends and they were our tight ends.
Man, you was hurting for tight ends.
Yeah.
Did they want to be fullback as bad as Jeff wanted to be fullback?
Was Robbie and Felix on the same side? Good God.
Yeah, I know. They had to be huge.
Probably. I mean, we were big up front. I was small.
Robbie's probably
about 6'8".
I mean,
6'8".
I want to say he's like 6'6", 6'7" now.
Nah, he's probably 6'3", 6'4".
Back then?
Yeah. Kyle's a big guy. Kyle's probably 6'2" or 3". Shane was 6'2" or 3".
What were you at center weight?
About 170. And
That's pretty big.
I was
really.
small.
I mean,
I wouldn't have thought you'd have been that big.
Yeah.
I was, compared to those guys,
We never really had a big center.
I was small. I'm really small.
Big D is it.
That's why it's probably the biggest center we've ever had.
I mean, and y'all all know Felix, how big Felix was. So
Yeah.
we were big up front. I mean, we were quite large, except for me. And so,
who was your quarterback? I don't remember.
Dan and Chris
I had a
Hollifield.
Dan Cobb jersey.
Yeah.
So did Chris Mershon, he played defense?
He was young. Chris was young. He was a ninth grader, I think, that first year, because I think the last year at Stevenson, as an eighth grader, they moved him up because he was so big, and they put him on a goal line defensive package in the playoffs over there against Crossville, and he jumped off sides with Crossville going into the score the go-ahead touchdown and put the ball where a quarterback sneak. Seems like maybe.
That story right there may have actually happened when he was a seventh grader.
No, I think he was an eighth grader.
The reason why I say that is because Robbie Brown
Yes,
was a senior.
that's right.
And they said he ran up there and kicked him right square in the ass.
It was more than once.
Offsides.
It was more than once. It was more than once.
But that would have been in '86, which they played Crossville over there in '86 too.
I was going to say, there was a thorn in Stevenson's side.
Yeah, they were.
A couple of times.
That was with Calvin.
So he might have been a 10th grader that first year.
But
I mean, we had some good guys that played with us that first year. I mean, John York, hardest I ever got hit in my life was by Doug Goins.
That's probably a lot of people say that.
He was just a man. I mean, he was just a man.
I like to go back and watch some of them films because I remember being at every game, but I was so locked in on Dan Cobb and John York. Like I don't remember a whole lot of anything.
I've never seen him run a play.
Yeah, me either.
I've always heard.
I've heard of Doug Goins,
and
I respect him, but
same here.
Never.
We need to have a show one night where we go sit in the film room and watch some of these films. Just put the camera in the back.
I tell you another guy that a lot of people don't know and probably don't remember was a guy named LaShawn Turner.
I remember.
At one point, I remember when McLeod had when he was running this website, I just remember he had the longest fumble recovery in the history of the school. And I can remember looking up who it was or Googling him or something. And oh my goodness, this dude looked like a specimen.
He was good.
He looked like an NFL. And now when I say look up a picture, I'm talking about shoulder pads up.
Right.
But this guy had traps before traps were a thing.
Like Goldberg.
Yeah, really, he really did.
He was
traps before they came out.
What year was he?
He was a senior at first year.
Really?
Yep. He just played that 1 year with us, and And I'll be
Where
honest,
is he?
I don't know. And
Wrestling in WWF?
I don't even know where he come from.
Yeah, I don't remember any Turners.
I don't know where he come from.
Look at Smith.
There's
dude,
some
on,
Turners from Bridgeport.
Not one of those Turners.
Yeah,
Probably not a truck driver.
Did he ride horses?
No.
No cowboy boots?
No.
18 wheelers, none of that.
But we had some good guys that played. I mean, we had some. Y'all were talking about Cody Guess earlier. His dad played linebacker for us. John Peacock played linebacker for us. I think Robbie, he done some double duty as tight end, defensive end. Some Chris McQuarrie, different Chris McQuarrie, played the other defensive end.
Yeah. Who thought that could be too?
Big John McCarver played defensive tackle for us, I believe, and Robbie Brown. I think Robbie. I don't know where.
No, Robbie graduated in 86. 86 was his last football season.
No, sir. Not that Robbie Brown.
Oh,
different one.
Okay.
Different one. The Robbie Brown I'm talking about was a junior that first year.
What was Jason Brown's older brother's name?
David.
Yeah.
He's a big old cuss, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I tell you, we had another guy that played with us that was a great big old guy. Y'all remember his kids. Logan and Laniel Whitehead. Y'all remember Logan and Laniel?
Yeah, they just passed away.
He passed away just a couple days ago. But he played with us, and he was a big old intimidating guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a big old.
I always heard he was pretty good football player.
Yeah. He,
Logan was a good ball player.
Yeah. Trying to think some of the other guys that played with us that was, Bird Bundy played with us.
I remember.
I
have more. How old is Bird Bundy?
He's my age.
I can
51.
remember.
He's my next door neighbor for a while.
Yeah.
I can remember more Bird Bundy stories from my childhood than I can remember anything. You got Bird Bundy stories and you got Sam Houston stories, and now they're not the same type stories. I will say this, but that's the two. I guess people that I can remember hearing stories about from my father is, it was always. Damn it, Bird, or I had Sam do the
Bird was the outlaw.
But I always remember him. We've had some outlaws come through. We've all had those in our group.
That's a whole show right there.
Right? That
the outlaw.
But those outlaws
Good
were kind of
you gotta have. Yeah, you gotta
have some.
they were in. It wasn't like outlaws that weren't really in. Bird was in, and,
he was in.
And I had some outlaws that were in. And I don't, I keep in touch with one every so often. I don't want to call him an outlaw, and I won't say his name, but
what's their sound like?
I'll say this, and everyone
Was
will
he on the
know,
O team?
Everyone will know who
What
it
number
is
they were?
if they know his story. But he got suspended in the third round of the playoffs my senior year, his senior year as well, and instead of him pouting and whining and not being a part of us. He was the biggest cheerleader that we had on the sideline that night. He didn't, it wasn't like he was. Yeah, it wasn't like he was suspended and didn't show up to the game. Right. This guy was on the sideline. This guy ran through the paper. He was jumping up and down every time we went 3 and out. He was one of us, and that's the difference. Okay, in my mind. That's what takes you from good to great. When you have, there's nothing that anyone could have done that was bigger than the team. And even though he made a mistake, it still wasn't bigger than the team. And that night will always hold a special place in my heart. Hell yeah, he knows who I'm talking about.
And I don't know. And I like the coaching staff that we got right now at North Jackson. I really do, and I think they can get some things done. But does it seem like, from your perspectives, that I thought we were always excited about a play that was made?
Yeah,
and I don't see coaches of anywhere really getting excited about players making plays anymore. I mean, am I lost in that, or am I?
No, you're not. And
The kids don't really get excited like they used to either.
Yeah.
Some of them do, but a lot of them don't.
I remember catching Todd Hughes at Claiborne County when we beat them down there to go to the playoff, go to the state championship game. I don't know if I can't remember if he recovered the fumble on the sack or if he did the sack.
Brent hit him. I think Todd recovered it. Could be.
So now I ain't a very big guy, you know. I'm not that great big, you know. I remember catching Todd as he jumped in the air and me thinking as he leaped off the ground, we're both fixing to go to the ground because I ain't going to be able to hold him. Mm-hmm. But I just remember us both being that excited that, you know, and I don't see that kind of from any coaches anymore. I mean, I don't see that. And maybe you're right that kids maybe don't get excited anymore.
Man, you need to sit this one out. Me and Sight got in trouble with our radio broadcast a couple years ago. A couple touchdown plays. Remember, we got a phone call about us sounding like we were commentating a funeral. Remember that?
Yeah.
Because we weren't excited enough during touchdown.
Touchdown against Will.
To me, and we do it a lot with the radio, when we see a kid make an exceptional play or do his job to make a play, we try to acknowledge that every time. And when your position coach acknowledges you doing that, I would just feed you.
Yeah.
You can't wait for the next play. But you're right, yeah. There's a huge lack of emotion. I think a lot of it comes from when we were playing, when you're on the sideline, you were locked into the game.
Right.
You didn't care what was going on in the bleachers.
Right.
You didn't look. You were locked into the game. So when something happened, there's another 40, 50, 60, 50 kids on the sideline that are fixing to get loud and rowdy when that happens, and they're going to do it before the crowd does.
Right.
And I don't think you have that now because you look at sidelines now, some of them you can just grab and go, what's the damn score right now?
Yeah.
And they go, shit. Some of our days, they got their phone in their hand or in their pocket.
And I think a lot of that goes back to little things. And I harp on this at work. And I'm not going to talk about work. But anyhow, little things.
Grab a bucket with him.
One of the things that drives me nuts and is looking down there and seeing all these kids on the sideline, helmets off. I like, when we were on the sideline, you had to have your helmet on. If you had your helmet off, it's because you just get a drink because you'd just come off the field.
Nobody ever even had to say.
No. None of that. You had your helmet on. And, of course, early on, and things have changed. I understand that. We're in a different time. But the no earrings, you didn't go in that field house with earrings in. That was a no-no. Nowadays, I'm sure that's changed. I'm not saying that that's wrong by any means, but there was just little things that you did and you didn't do. But the helmet on, you have the helmet on. And I've seen it a couple of times this past year, and I'm not here to criticize. I'm not here to talk about, because I said this last time we got together. The things that are going on right now, Joe Hollis is not solely responsible for what's going on. He's the head coach, and he's going to take the brunt of the punishment. You're probably catching a lot of it. I mean, because you're the leader of our school, but it's a community thing. But one of the things that drove me nuts this past year, we're fixing to go through run through the sign. You'd see our guys over there. We're chirping, looking at the other team. We're chirping before they're running through the sign and trying to act big and bad. And we're
pulling some Matt Leader with shit.
I got some good stories.
Well,
about some of that.
it's one thing if you do that and you're certified, but at this point, we're barely beating teams that used to would be an afterthought. We're not at that level. I feel like if you're going to run your mouth, you need to be able to back it up. And at 5-5, I don't think we're really backing it up. Now, do I like the emotion and stuff? Yeah. But I would rather see you get to 8-2, 9-1, and then be doing stuff like that. We used to have people intimidated, and we're not there right now.
I would agree 100%. And one of the things that I try to express, I talk to them every once in a while. I don't go and talk to the team every week or anything like that. that's not, I like to share my story when I can, but it's not like I want like I've said before, it's not, I don't want everybody to live my story. It's not about me anymore. I've lived mine. But one thing that I want everybody, I think, and I believe that everybody should do, and I think this is just life in general, is I should be able to enjoy his success as much as mine. His success makes me succeed. Right. I gotta when Matt sells a cow at the cattle, I've only been to one cattle sale my entire life, and Leroy and them sold one. We thought or whatever. According to me, they sold it. I was fired up. I didn't have not one penny in it, but I was fired up because that's my guy and he sold a cow.
I felt the same way when you got a principal job.
But I think that's just part of who you have to be.
Yeah,
I got to be willing to enjoy your success because it's a team game. Okay, in golf, like I like to play, it's what I can do. That's the only individual sport out there, I guess. But when we're playing a team game, I got to be able to enjoy your success. And until I can do that, I can't really be a good teammate. No matter how good I am, no matter if I rush for 3,000 yards a season, if I don't enjoy your success, not that good of a teammate. And I think that's hard to do today. I really do. In a me generation and a rivals generation of a huddle and everybody's got a highlight reel. And I think everybody should have a highlight reel. I think all these avenues and these things, I think they're great.
TikTok, but,
Yeah, I think they're great. I think everybody should have a huddle.
I'll take that a step further, though. You touched on some good stuff, but I'll take it a step further. It's not so much the kids being excited for the player's success. Now where the problem is, parents aren't excited for another kid's success.
Right.
Yes. It's a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Until we get in a situation where, for me personally, I've busted my ass my whole life with my daughters in softball, trying to get the girls around them better. I've probably cost myself, I know I have. I've cost myself a ton of time just working on my own damn daughters, helping them with their game, because I wanted them to have girls around them when they get to high school. They have a chance to go and play for state. Mm-hmm. Because one can't do it.
Right.
No matter how damn good mine is, if the girls around them ain't no good. Mm-hmm. So when they were 5, we went to work with the girls around them, trying to build. It takes a whole fist to knock somebody's ass out. Right. You ain't going to do it with one damn finger. So that was our mindset growing up. The more girls around you that can play, the better off you're going to be. So when I see another girl their age succeeding, that fires me up. Mm-hmm. I'm telling my girls, hey, y'all got a chance, man. They're going to have, and I'm going through the whole lineup. Y'all got 6 girls, right? Y'all got 6 girls that can play. Now you've got parents who are like, hell, we might have to change schools.
Yeah.
Hell, we might have to go somewhere else because you're not the best one on this team.
Yeah.
I don't want mine to be the best. I've told mine, even my little boy, we played football this year, I said, you're 4 years old. You're probably going to be the worst one on this team. But I want you to find some way to contribute. Had no idea what he would play, what he would do. Find some way to contribute. Mm-hmm. Force a damn fumble this year. Gave him a couple little small goals. Make a solo tackle. Force a fumble. Make a block. Do something to make an impact. He went out there. He ended up being the starting quarterback. Played his little ass off. Started at linebacker on defense at forward. Played way above his age.
He recovered 28 fumbles?
Oh, my God. Yeah.
I feel like he recovered so many fumbles.
Yeah, he's one of them. Yeah, he's just one of them.
Time he goes a little 44 with a ball.
Yeah, bottom of the pile he just comes up with. Hell, he recovered like 4 in one game against South Carolina. But I guess we're just built different from where we came. But I'm looking at the other kids in his age, already trying to think, all right, what do we need to work on for later?
What are we going to need this year?
What are we going to need this year?
Go to state.
I think right now you got some parents that they would rather lose games as long as their kids are getting to play.
Well, it's like the damn quarterback several years ago, and I ain't going to remember shit, the school. The quarterback that transferred from Madison Academy and went to
to round Coleman.
Yeah, because he wasn't going to
I
be.
can't remember
I
that.
forgot about that.
Riceville.
Yeah.
He was fighting for the start.
Oh, he went to Danville. Was it the guy that went to Danville?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not Faultville, Danville.
Yeah.
Because we played them.
Just to go be so he could start.
Yeah.
You didn't want to go fight with the kids.
But the dad was behind
Right,
that.
right. Well, yeah.
Yeah, the dad said he would rather his kid play there and lose and be the starter, be the guy, than to play at Madison Academy and win and have to split time.
Yeah, it was like a rotating.
Yeah, that just.
I sometimes, I'm going back to where all this started at, is I don't know if kids know how to celebrate. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that may sound crazy, but and I told the story earlier about Trevor, and it's a great father-son moment that I'll share the rest of the story. As when the game's over, of course, they're celebrating a little bit after the game's over, but then when he comes off, he comes through the gate, and all he does is smack my hand, high five. Now I can tell he's excited. I mean, obviously he's excited. So he goes to the locker room and he gets his clothes changed. Coach goes over the stuff with him, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, the great father-son moment was when Trevor got to me that night, because I was standing right inside the locker room, and it's a moment that I'll always treasure, is he bear hugged me just as tight as he could. And, of course, I bear hugged him back just as tight as I could because that was that moment. But he didn't know what to do in that situation where he had made that play. And nobody else really knew kind of what to do. And I don't know if it's because, sometimes I think we're treating it maybe like a business rather than a sport.
Yeah.
Football's an emotional game.
It's very
really
emotional.
Very
I mean, you have to play, and I always used to tell y'all, you got to play that game pissed. You can't play football if you're not pissed off. You can't
That's how
do
we
it.
call one on the radio.
So, I mean,
Well, it's tough doing a game like we do because we're so emotionally invested. There's been times I've opened that door next door and the coaches are in there. Got my mind. What are we doing? I mean, you get so worked up,
Right.
and I think that's a lot of the reasons we have all 7 of our listeners. They do love our emotions, but it makes it hard. We're not just up there calling what we see. It matters what we see.
Shit, I had somebody message me on Facebook one time. It was the year
Year before last, wasn't it?
we beat Scottsboro at home. I think it might have been the game Octavius went nuts. And we recovered a fumble at the end of that game
Barbie.
to
Brett
close
Barbie.
it out. And I had somebody message me on Facebook and say, at the end of that broadcast, you couldn't really hear y'all at all. And I was like, no shit, because we were standing on the damn table screaming out the damn window at the damn fans because we just recovered a damn fumble to beat their ass. Hell yeah, you think I was thinking about the radio and doing a good broadcast? Like we were hanging out the window at Owen and everybody that's underneath. I was like, I don't give a damn whether you could hear me or not. You didn't pay for that. Hell, I damn lost my mind when that happened. That's the best part about it, man. All the years we did the broadcast, and it was like, you got to remember, we did that season where we had, one win?
The first game we done was Butler. This is when Johnson was up here.
That was the
And if
heartbreak.
Butler beat us, they end the state's longest losing streak.
Right.
We beat them on a last-second touchdown pass to Trey Harris. So that was a heck of a game for us to get started. But you look back, and I was like, man, we should have beat them by like 95. Any other team would have beat them that bad. But, it is what it is.
That was, you think about the most frustrated you've ever been watching a game, and then you imagine putting a headset on.
And people
And
listen.
every thought you have running through your mind, your mouth's right there ready to say it. And you got to give this broadcast because some daddies at work listen to his son play.
Right.
And even though it's going like shit, he don't want to hear that.
Right.
He still wants to hear that Johnny made the tackle for a loss, even though we're down 41-0.
Right.
We've been through hell as far as
I'm looking
all
forward
that.
to a good year.
Well,
Like a real
and
strong-
we've said this too, like y'all state championship run, y'all's run, it makes me jealous as hell, like when I think about it, because I'm like, how damn, as close as we are with you, and some of those guys you played with, to have been able to do the radio that year.
Oh yeah.
You know, to know that I was with you before you ever even played, taking you crow hunting and playing on the back roads at night with no headlights. To watch you play for a state championship and be able to have that connection on the field in a state. Like, I can't even imagine us going down to do a state championship game.
They probably wouldn't let you guys down.
Yeah, they're probably. We're going to see some real credentials.
Yeah.
But you're talking about father-son moments, and this is kind of neat. When y'all beat Claiborne to get in, when it's all said and done, final seconds to run it off, you know, we rode down. There's several of us rode together. Well, my dad and several of them rode together. They were standing up above us after the game. I was talking to Daddy. He said, "Did you see Josh Harden and Chief?" I said, "Yeah." He said he wouldn't let Chief had went down there and you had grabbed him. He said he wouldn't let him go. He said you could just tell that stuck with him. Of course, he's probably thinking, "I wish y'all had been better. You know, we could have." But that stuck with him.
Said, "I wish I had a son that played football."
I wish my son would be there.
Yeah.
But
Lucky Chief.
The highs and lows you experience. When y'all got beat by UMS, right? That was outside of playing. That was the hardest loss for me to accept, because I can remember, and if you go back and you watch the television version, you can see me standing there with Coach Strader and Bucket. You know, I mean, it's a tough thing. And I can remember walking by, and it was 1 week before you got Chief up and you hugging him, celebrating. And then the exact opposite the next week. And I heard that hurt me. We get in the car going back. We stayed down there, and I remember getting in the car. And I think we talked about this last week. But me and Mike Guest were sitting in the car and we couldn't talk. I mean, it was, you didn't want to say anything. You're trying to keep your composure because, I mean, it's an emotional deal.
Yeah.
We were invested, you know. And
yeah.
I mean, we're fighting tears.
Absolutely.
Longest bus ride in the history of bus rides was that night coming home. That
leads into something too that I wanted to get you to speak on. The time that you coaches put in. I don't think people understand. We touched on it a little bit. I think it might have been last episode. You know, you coaches having to go pick kids up before practice. We had to be there, you know, X amount of time. But y'all had to go pick kids up before then.
Yep.
Then come to practice. Then go through the whole practice, put all the shit up. Then you had kids in the back of your trucks waiting on rides home. Going on the away game, having to come back home, put all the shit in the field house. How many hours? Just ballpark it.
Well, not only that, too.
In a season.
Back then,
breaking
the film swapping.
Well, that's what I was going to
say.
say.
Y'all had to travel to meet up.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like.
There's a lot of stuff going under the radar.
Yeah, speak a little bit to all the stuff that people don't realize when they think, oh, hell, these coaches.
Yeah. You know, the only real day that we had off, and it wasn't really a day off, but it kind of was for us, was Thursday.
I was going to say probably Thursday.
Thursday was the day we had but generally on Thursday, there was a middle school game somewhere.
Yeah.
And so we always, somebody, or some of us always tried to be at a middle school game.
I can remember it always.
You know, we would work on the 2 years, the 01 and the 02 year. We played 14 games in 01. And then we played 15 games in 02. And so for a 2-year period, I mean, I used to joke with my wife all the time and I don't remember who told me this phrase, but I kind of jokingly said it to her one night right after we got married. And so whoever told me said, you tell your wife that kiss her in August and tell her you'll see her in December. And that's not really far-fetched from the truth. I mean, because it was just, I mean, you put your head down and you went to work. I mean, that's what we did. You know, I worked every Saturday morning during the season because I went and took care of people that was hurt. Somebody got hurt on Friday night, then I came on Saturday morning, and I did injury clinic on Saturday mornings for whoever was hurt the night before. 8 o'clock. It didn't matter what time we got home. 8 o'clock. Rose was up. Lolly was up, going and trading films at 7, 6:30, wherever they had to go, depending on where they had to go. And then, there was a lot of days, a lot of times when I got to the field house at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the films had already been swapped, and the films from the team we were playing the next Friday was sitting on the table back there in the film room ready to be watched. And so that's what you did. Because you had to break down your film from Friday night. Before you met on 2 o'clock on Sunday, you had to break down your game film from Friday night and grade your players from Friday night. And then generally, everybody always wanted to take a peek at who we was playing the next week if we hadn't already seen them, or to see what they looked like in the last game. So my Saturdays consisted during the season was 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, and I'd break down the film. And it'd take me 2 hours probably to break a film down. I'd go home, get away from it, watch college football, and then at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock on Saturday night, I'd go back to the field house. And I'd watch the game for whoever we was playing the next week. And then on Sunday we met at 2, and we worked until whatever time we got our game plan ready. And then you worked on Monday, you worked on Tuesday, you worked on Wednesday.
That's why I'd love to have some footage of y'all sitting there and coming over that game plan, the back and forth.
Well, I tell you what,
suggestions.
And man, I got to work with some real good people. I mean,
Coach Gutt.
Yeah, Coach Gutt and the whole bunch. But Schrader and Peak and I worked so long together. I mean, we were together 10, 12 years. I don't even know now. Long time. I mean, we were together for a long time. And we knew what each other was thinking. And so what we would do is we would draw every formation that a team run. Peak drew it on the board. I charted it on paper. Schrader run the clicker and he would call out the plays, and I'd mark them on papers. And so that's what we did. And so we would go back after we got all that done. We would go back and say, all right, if they line up in this is what we want to do. And we might have an automatic adjustment that the kids made. It was, I think Coach Lolly talked a little bit about it when he was here about, we didn't really have set stuff. The kids made a lot of calls. They made a lot of the calls. The linebackers and the secondary guys got us lined up. The front was pretty easy. I mean, now sometimes they had to move once we seen a set or something. If we run somebody up, if we walked a safety down in the box or something and walked a linebacker up on the end, we might have to bump the front or something. But for the most part, the front was pretty much stationary. But we might have an automatic adjustment to this set. Or if we lined up in this is what we were going to do. In this set, this is what we're going to do. And then once you got all that done, you'd have to go back and look and say, all right, what do they do out of this set? Do they run? How much do they run? And we could tell you they were 60% run out of this formation. And if they're running out of their 60% running plays that they run, 85% of them was to the right.
It was on a printout every Friday.
Yeah. I got
in on some of that chart, and this would have been his junior year.
It's real time consuming, but and then you just had time at some point in time, usually on Monday afternoons after practice was over, because Mondays was usually a shorter day because it was to fix mistakes that we had and it was to go over the new game plan. You could really go back on Mondays generally and just watch film and pick up little things like, I used to start to watch so I could give them an advantage to say, that tackle's left foot is way back. If his foot's way back, he's fixing the pass set. You can get a run pass key. Or if the splits are this close versus this far away, here's what they have a tendency to do. And they were good enough they could do that. They could see that because we harped on it so much during the week, is they knew. And then, they didn't maybe not heard what I was saying during defensive line drill, but when we went together and we did defensive team stuff, and I'm on the defensive line about seeing, then they could pick it up and they could see it, And so it kind of, and then there were things that Pete told them that was even further beyond what I told the defensive line. And so, I mean, it was just little things. Anything we could do to get an advantage, we looked for anything we could get to give us an advantage.
You know, one of the biggest thing he talks about the little things, and we all played against Scottsboro when they ran the triple option. You know, when you talk about little things, when they run the counter option, you know, if you'll ever go back and look, their tailback always really, if they were going to run the counter option, he really exaggerated.
That, yeah.
You know, way worse than what he ever was if he was going to run the option that way.
Yeah.
You know, so something that simple. Once he does this, like, you know, he's not going that way.
Right.
You know, just little things like that. And I needed those. You know, like I wasn't nowhere even a decimal of the Carlton person. You know, like I needed every little I could. You know, we prided on ourselves on doing all the little things right. You know, we had to do the little things right in order to be successful.
And me being a defensive tackle, like a couple series two in a game, like especially you play a team pulls the guards a lot or whatever, I could usually tell if my guard was going to pull either by the way his feet was or he was light knuckles, light on his hands.
We had a key against Daleville. I mean, we knew if they were going to run or pass just based on one offensive lineman.
Yeah.
If they were going to pass, he squatted in his stance. If they were going to run, he was more, you know, flat. Like his back was more flat. And Brian Wellington, he called it every play. It was either party or rabbit.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was 100%.
I love all of our call names.
One thing that we always took pride in as our defensive coaches is that we were so fundamentally sound. That was one thing that we always pushed for because we knew. I mean, and I use Josh a lot of times with Trevor because he knows Josh. And so there's some credibility there with my story because of the closeness that, and Trevor really likes Josh. So it gives me some credibility with Trevor to be able to use Josh is, you know, and Josh is telling the truth. If Josh makes one false step, he's blocked. I mean, he knows that. It wouldn't have, I mean, if he didn't know it, he got told several times, multiple times by multiple people probably. Mm-hmm. You know, but it was little things. You have to do everything right, and that's what made us so good. That's the thing that separated us from the teams that we played. We knew that if we made a mistake, we weren't good enough to make a mistake and overcome most of the time because we had those hard-nosed Chris Holcomb kids who were not so athletic but would lay everything they had on the line. But if they did the little things right, they gave us a chance to win. Jonathan Cobbin is another prime example. Jonathan Cobbin, I seen him block a guy one night against somebody, I don't remember who he was playing, but he weighed about $150, Jonathan did. And the guy he's playing against is 230. And Jonathan just wore him out. You know, Chris Satterfield is another one. I seen Chris Satterfield make a play at East Limestone. We talked about East Limestone earlier. Satterfield makes a play at East Limestone. He walks up in the box on a 4th and 1 or 2 play. I don't even remember now. Yes. It's 4th and 1 or 2. And he defeats 2 offensive linemen and gets in the gap between 2 offensive linemen and sticks the running back in the hole for no gain to seal the ball game. Yeah. You know, because he did everything that he was taught to do perfectly, and that was what made him successful. It wasn't that Chris was a great athlete. I love Chris dearly. But he was not. I mean, he was a really, really good high school athlete. But he didn't possess the abilities to make a mistake and still be successful.
Right.
Yeah. Which is the same story for so many people that's played. Yeah. So in order for us to be successful, we had to make y'all do things. I went to a coaching clinic one time and come back with, we used to line down with our hands straight. And I went to a coaching clinic and the guy made the statement, if you'll turn your hand and lying down with your hand, you're already in a position. All you got to do is come up and your thumb's going to be in the chest plate just like you want it to be. You know? And I thought, well, it makes sense. Because we're trying to get to the chest plate before the offensive lineman gets to us. So if we got to turn our hand and then come up, if we already get it turned, we're saving time. It just gave us another advantage. I mean, it's something simpler as that. Gave us an advantage.
Let God give you these.
Huh?
Let God give you
That's
these.
right.
Play defense.
That's right.
That's what he always told us.
So I mean, but we spent those countless hours to do those things because of our drive for you to be successful.
And another thing, kind of touching on that, you know, like when we'd play like lesser teams, you know, teams you knew that there's no way that they're going to beat us. Well, Rose would harp on those things because you would put, he would put on film, just say, and I'll use them example, I'll call them out because they was notorious for it. East Limestone, they would play like a Fairview or Douglas, and they would just slop ass around.
Yep.
And Rose would be like, that's why they ain't never going to, you know, go any further than what they do. But he would make sure that we would play our best game, even though, you know what I'm saying.
Right.
We would set up. We'd have
stay
goals.
ready. You ain't got to get ready.
You know, if we had a game and we knew it was somebody that we knew we was going to beat, we had goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those.
If you didn't meet those goals, we knew we were going to win, and y'all knew we was going to win. But if we didn't do something to incentivize y'all's wanting to play hard, you wasn't going to play hard. So we created goals every week. You know, it's like less than 100 yards rushing, less than 100 yards passing. You know, 2 turnovers. You know, I don't even remember what some of them were. You know, sometimes we wanted a punt return. Sometimes we wanted a block punt. I mean, it just depending on what team we was playing, as we decided.
4A would have been fun, Zach.
Well, wasn't it though?
Yeah.
Well, damn, we played my senior year. We played Gaston, which was at the time number 3 in 5A. We played Scottsboro when they came. That's number 3 in 5A.
Talking about the little jabs. Me and Josh were texting earlier today, and Josh, I said, Josh, what size shirt you need for a Warchant shirt? And he said, I said, you need an extra large? He said, no, just a large. I said, I forgot y'all's 4A.
Oh, man.
That stuff will never die.
No, and that's good.
Poor old Kane, he catches all the time.
And it shouldn't, you know. And Zach, to respond to your comment about Dad and I hugging after that Claiborne game, you know, that was a big. I still remember it, you know. And if you go back, and I think it's on the highlight tape, but I've never watched the entire game just on a live feed. You know, that game was on TV, but that was a special moment for both of us. You know, Mr. Hicks had passed away the year before that, and he never got a chance to, you know, and we all know how much North Jackson meant to him. And he, you know, that guy never played for North Jackson. It's just that, you know, he did a lot for that school, to put it lightly. You know, that was Dad's best friend. You know, if my dad had a best friend, that was it. So, you know, I knew that meant a lot to him, to my dad, just to finally make it, you know. So that, you know, that hug, that I can still remember. He was the first person there was 2 things that I was going to do that night. Once I felt like we were going to win that game.
Careful now.
No. Yeah, this is all safe. One was hug my dad and tell him how much, you know, make sure that he knew how much Mr. Hicks would appreciate that night. And I can remember us hugging and talking about that. The second was, Bug, Chris Satterfield and I, so if you watch the 2001 game when they beat us, there were 2 guys on the Claiborne team that went and they held hands and did a flip over midfield. They were just celebrating. They should have celebrated. They celebrated, and that was just something that 2 competitors noticed.
Yeah.
So I remember after I hugged Dad, I went and found Bug, and we grabbed hands and we did a flip on at their 50-yard line. You know, and that was just that was the only 2 things I wanted to do that night. You know, And then after we lost the state championship game, I remember one person. There wasn't anything that I wanted to do that night other than win, but I remember one person coming up to me, and that was Jeremy. I have no idea how y'all even got on the damn field.
We wasn't supposed to. Me, my guest went out there.
Yeah, I remember like looking up, and it was him. And I was like, how the hell did y'all? Because it wasn't like just a regular old, it was at Legion Field. That wasn't just any other high school stadium. But I remember him hugging me and telling me how proud he was of me, and like that, things like that, they never leave you, and they never will. Hell, I'm 37. What are y'all? 41? About to be 41.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, me too.
So like that's just, and he was hugging me for two reasons. One, he was proud of his brother, and two, he was proud of North Jackson that night, and.
Now he's in Scottsboro.
And now he's down there at the past the city limit sign. So, maybe we can reel him back in one day.
Playing that in Birmingham, that's probably what cost y'all the game, because we had to break all our traditions because we couldn't get down there in the field house.
That's true, yeah.
We went in.
Let me ask you, would you rather
went into every pregame speech? I feel like that year.
Yeah.
But I can remember, it's hard for me to even talk about it now. I'm not even you or Chief.
Yeah.
But I can remember walking by and not really hearing the whole conversation. But I knew what was being said. But that one, that still hurts me. And I wasn't him, and I wasn't you.
Yeah.
But
I don't remember what was said. I really don't. And it's probably good because I heard enough, anyways. Not that I still hurt. Shit, I'm proud. And he and I remember, we stayed that weekend in Birmingham, and I just not to get too sentimental, but I remember Jeremy. He was a student at Jack State that year. He sent me a text message just telling me how proud I was. And again, like I said earlier, you guys are all I ever wanted to be, and especially him. That's a big brother. So that meant everything to me. But he said, hey, one day you'll be proud. One day you'll look back and you'll be, and I am. I really am proud of what we did. It would have been nice to close it out. Yeah, just like those 93 guys said, it would have been nice, and we didn't. But I still am proud of what I did and what we accomplished, and it's awesome.
I'll be honest with you. That'd make a hell of a movie, that 02 season.
And it really would. One of the things that I felt short of is, my best friend as a child growing up, and I talked about it earlier, was Drew Privet. As the first guy's house I ever spent the night at. If I spent the night somewhere, it was either his or Blake's house. And we had all said, hey, we're going to get Don a ring, and we never got a chance to do that. So, for my, my heart, it didn't get fulfilled that night. And that's okay. I've had to come to accept that. I've lived a blessed life, and I'm so thankful that I get to go to work there every day. But you want to talk about high school football, that's one of the things that didn't get fulfilled in my life. And sometimes they don't. Just like I told Mac at the end of the year this year, I wish you would have had a better year. I'm sorry you didn't. It's not my fault that you didn't, not his fault. It's not anybody's fault.
It's just the way it was.
It's just it. That's just life, And all you can do in life is just get after it and just go as hard as you can go, just like he did, just like we all did. We ain't half-assed anything in here, just like we're not half-assing this. But, that's the thing that I want just to be known about our time and mine and Leroy's time. And, man, we had some good times, and our story is our story. Just like I started out saying, that's us, and that's all we've got to go on is our own stories.
Real quick, we got a few minutes. You coached, you played, you coached, you were a principal. I remember that year we kind of got in a bind. I remember texting you about you were helping coach the linebackers, and I was hoping that would spark that. But coach is coach. How hard is it to sit up there and watch? Does it get any easier?
No. And And when yours is playing, it's that much more. Football's changed so much since I coached. I mean, it's a different game than it was back then.
I would never make a tackle now.
I mean, really, I mean,
I think about that a lot.
I would never make
I really do.
It's such a different game now. The game has evolved. I wish, and it goes in cycles. There was a time when the Houston Oilers run all this run and shoot stuff. Well, then it transitioned back because there were several of them that run it, and it transitioned back to, line up with a fullback, the tailback, and run downhill. And now it's transitioned back to that spread, run and shoot kind of deal. And so it'll transition back.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to sit up there and watch. Number one, because the game has changed. Strategy. I mean, football's a numbers game. I mean, you try to find a way, if you're an offensive coach, you try to find a way to outnumber the defense. And if you're a defensive coach, you try to find a way to keep yourself from getting outnumbered. And it's you split it right down the middle and draw a line right through the center and the quarterback. And, you make sure you got enough on this side and enough on this side to take care of whatever offensive sets out there. That doesn't change. That part hadn't changed. But the way you play the game has changed.
So many more possessions.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's...
When you talk about the defense that they had, I would like to see that defense try to defend some of these offenses you see now. I'm not saying that they couldn't do it, but it's a different era, No. I mean, I know y'all seen some different things, but...
I ask myself that a lot. I really do. And I've had this conversation with several people. And I always go back to one person, and that's A.J. Milwee, okay? We played against A.J. Milwee at the peak of his high school performance, okay, with a over 1,000-yard rusher at running back. So it's not like he had to do everything.
Right.
This guy went to UNA, set every record at UNA. We held him to 20 or 14 or 18, 20 points, something like that. And they ended up getting beat by Claiborne the week before we played Claiborne. So, me personally, I don't know if I make enough as many tackles as I did when everything's not right here in front of me. But I feel like we've been pretty salty still.
Yeah, I do too. And it especially helps when you got a corner out there that can lock down one side of the field.
Yeah, and to go back to the first episode, you guys talk about the first episode, Get Off the Bus, guys. I want to say, I know all the 93 guys would have been the first ones off the bus in their eyes. And that's cool. But number 12 off the bus from my group, I'm going Demetrius Hutchins at number 1.
Well, just that good, did he? Well,
God
Dion.
Bless America. He's not, 15 years old, 14, 15 years old. Sophomore.
He had his face mask tape.
Yeah.
I remember Ali telling me, I've heard him say it myself, when he got to Alabama, Tyrone Protho still talked about Demetrius Hutchins. It's on YouTube.
I think he could have been a Sunday player.
Yeah. I do too.
I do. I think he could have been a Sunday player.
Well, he's got a kid. I don't know if he's going to be on that level, but Carlin's a little competitor.
Really? That's cool.
We talked about it, and his mom sent me a message after watching that first one. She said, "I let him see that." I mean, he's a good little kid, good little competitor. We got some competitors coming up,
and that's all we ever really need.
Yeah,
that's all we ever have been. That's all we have been is just competitors, and if you got that,
that's a wrap.
Awesome.